What's been on my mind this week is how often we can chase clever ideas when clear ones actually create clients. So many coaches are searching for that niche that no one's ever done before, but that's not always a good thing. If no one else is doing it, sometimes it's because there is no market for it. What if instead of trying to be the most original person in the room, you focused on being the clearest? This is something I've worked on over years, and I'm continuously feeding back to clients like, how can we just say this so simply and so short? Which isn't always the feedback I used to give. And a lot of the niching advice perhaps I used to give was before AI came into business. Now AI has come in, things sound really generic. So we need to keep refining and keep thinking, how can we sound like AI has not come up with this statement, even if AI has come up with your statement? So I have loads of ways of doing this now, and it's taken a long time to create those short, sharp, normal sounding niche statements that do convey exactly what you do to the average person. So my message today is that clear is better than clever. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. There are many people who have gone before you. You just need to explain what you do in simple human language. A phrase I shared this week in my call, which people loved, was imitate, then innovate. So, first, start with what's working out there. We don't need to create a new car. All we need to do is look at cars that are out there and add air conditioning, different colors, different things to them. So, I would suggest doing the same in your business. Who is successful out there? Look for evidence that what you want is possible, and then study and reverse engineer how they created it. This isn't always easy because I've seen clients reverse engineer someone's business who I know behind the scenes is not successful. So this is really tricky to do online. So a word of warning here that only use examples where you have absolute proof that they are successful. So, for example, many of my clients will know that I have a lot of clients. Therefore, what I'm sharing is real and from genuine experience of gaining clients myself, which I know can feel really easy for coaches selling to coaches. But I can promise you that other programs I've been in, everyone's like, how can you ever succeed in that niche? It's the hardest niche ever because it's so competitive. So don't be fooled that there is a really easy niche out there. Usually, even the easy niches are hard and take hard work, commitment, consistency, all of the things. So if you have rewritten your niche statement 50 times to make it sound interesting and very unlike everyone else's, then try and take the approach of saying out loud exactly who you help and how. Write that down and make that your niche statement, not some elaborate thing that you will never remember once you have closed ChatGPT down for the day. I've worked in lots of different courses at the moment with super successful people and heard this same message time and time again. If you want to create great YouTube videos, look at someone who is creating great YouTube videos and figure out how they're doing it, or learn from them, even better. Same with content. If you're wondering how to create great content, find someone who's doing it and reverse engineer exactly how they're doing it. Sometimes it's not always easy to see these things. So behind the scenes, things can be very different. For example, you've got no idea if someone's sending hundreds of cold DMs a day. You could be looking at their social profile thinking, how are they successful? They haven't posted for a month. Maybe that means I don't need to post for a month. But it might mean that they have a very different strategy behind the scenes. So again, all of this advice is really tricky if you haven't got the inside goss on what's going on in the industry. But I hope it gives you some inspiration to really reverse engineer what's working. For example, if I were to reverse engineer those who are more successful than me, I would know full well what I need to do is do this podcast on video and add it to YouTube, pitch myself to events. There are tons of things that I know I could do differently to get to that next level by looking at people at that next level above me. Whether I have the energy, time is up to us individually to decide whether we want to use that strategy, but we can't be cross for the results that we don't get from the work that we don't put in. I often run this call in my business of coaching group where we look at a handful of successful coaches. We reverse engineer together so we don't spiral into comparison what they're doing with a genuine curiosity lens. Most of the times, the things we notice, and it's very clear when you're looking at 5 successful people, one after the other, is a clear niche, knowing exactly who they help and how, and saying it super short and super simply. Consistent authority, there are usually logos or statements that just emphasize that they know exactly what they're talking about. This can also be images. So maybe they've spoken at events. That social proof and trust markers are always there. So you know that you are in safe hands. And usually this part is often not visible, is some sort of regular rhythm, whether I know behind the scenes, perhaps, that they are sending lots of DMs or putting consistent posts out or consistently liaising with their network or some other methodology to being able to actually make this work for them consistently. But again, take the warning, online, everyone looks successful. So only use data from people who you 100% know are successful. So today I invite you to look for evidence that what you want is possible. I had a client this week who said, well, everyone's doing leadership coaching, so I don't want to do leadership coaching. Actually, that's not a bad sign. If everyone is doing leadership coaching, maybe there's a market for leadership coaching. And yes, there are loads of different levels. So don't just think, oh, I'll be a leadership coach then. There's a market for that, because there are a lot of successful people and there are a lot of people that aren't successful in that niche. But what it means for you is if there are any successful people in that niche, there is some market demand. Beware that they may have spent years gaining that market demand. So don't be naive like I have been in the past and think, well, they did it. I can do it next week as well. Because sometimes it's a lot of tiny, tiny repetitions and consistency that that person has put in to build whatever you see on the outside. Look at the volume of the work they are producing. So again, if I were to look at people the next level up from me, I know that they are not just posting once a day, they are posting twice a day, sometimes even 6 times, 8 times, 10 times a day. Yes, that may make you feel completely overwhelmed. And again, we get to decide, do we want to go to that next level? Do we want to build that or don't we? And while you are doing this, check in with yourself. How safe are you playing? Are you sharing your opinions widely, or are you being a bit vanilla? And this doesn't mean being shouty or aggressive. Hopefully you will know from listening to this podcast and all of my work that that is not my style. But I do share what I believe honestly, but with empathy. And that is how people start trusting you. So imitate before you innovate. Learn from what is working, make it your own, and say it clearly. Clarity beats being clever every time. If this resonated, go find 3 coaches who are doing what you want to do. Look up to them, do it with heart and not comparison. Study what they've done and admire what they have built. Not saying we don't all compare, but if I take this approach, I can really see that those who are ahead of me have put in the work to get there. So they deserve all of the credit. There is one particular person who was at a similar stage to me maybe 2 years ago, and now she is utterly flying. And I know it's because she has put in so much work, so much money into Facebook ads, for example, so much therapy, all of the things that I haven't done yet. So we all have our seasons in life. We can only do what we can do. We're just human beings. And if you're like me, with a couple of snatched hours each day to build your business, then that's what you have right now, and make the most of it. I hope this helped you and inspired you today that what you want is possible. Find evidence for that fact. And like I say at the end of every episode, trust yourself, believe in yourself, and be the wise gardener who keeps on watering the seed. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Women in the Coaching Arena. I have a mass of free resources on my website, joannalottcoaching.com. That's Joanna with an A and Lott with 2 T's, joannalottcoaching.com. And I'll also put links in the show notes below. Let me know if you found this episode useful, share it with a friend, and leave me a review, and I will personally thank you for that. Remember to trust yourself, believe in yourself, and be the wise gardener who keeps on watering the seed. Get into the arena, dare greatly, and try.